There we go. So I will bring up the PowerPoint in a moment here, but I just want to take a moment to introduce myself and touch on a few housekeeping pieces. So my name is Christina Barr, and I'm currently the program manager here in the Center for Conflict Resolution, the tuition-based courses. And I've been here probably for about 3 years in this position. My journey with the JI actually started about 15 years ago as a student. I took my first course here and fell in love with the program, and eventually started to work practiced as a family mediator for some time. And then lo and behold, I ended up back here working in the center. So really pleased to be with you here tonight. In a moment, I'm going to just pass it over to my colleague who will introduce himself as well. Travis, I'll let you go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Travis Wolf. I work with the Centers for Conflict Resolution and the Center for Leadership, specifically with customized training for external clients and organizations who benefit from our programs. I started as a student at the JI back in the early 2000s, I think. I completed the mediation and conflict coaching programs. And since then, I've worked with public education around alternative dispute resolution and also with victim offender mediation and restorative justice, where primarily my background is. And I'm very happy to see you all and be joining you tonight.
Thanks, Travis. So I'm just going to touch on a couple housekeeping pieces before we jump into content. So I'm just going to ask you when you're not speaking, if you could mute your microphone, just because that helps with the background noise. I think you're all muted right now. And also, in terms of questions, please feel free to stop us at any time and jump in, either unmute yourself, or you can ask questions in the chat box, chat function. If you click on that, you can write your question in there. And we have one of my colleagues, Kelsey, who is watching that and will respond to your questions, or she'll let Travis or myself know that there's a question and we can respond to it. So just wanted to touch on those pieces. I also wanted to let you know that we do have a survey, a survey that we're going to send you tomorrow. We're trying to get some information about who our students are, who's interested in our program, and how helpful our info sessions are. So if you do have 2 minutes, we'd really appreciate it, just taking the time, because it just helps us improve our programs and courses and make sure we're meeting people's needs. So that would be great as well. I'm just going to open up the PowerPoint now. Before I do that, does anyone have any questions before we jump into the content for tonight? Okay, I will just share my screen then. Okay, so we're going to cover a few things tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about what courses we offer, about our programs, the type of learners that are usually interested in our program, and why they take courses here. So, you know, what's different about the JI? Why would somebody come to us for the courses and certificates we have? At the end of the session, we'll take some questions, and then we have a guest from Mediate BC who's going to join us and talk a little bit about Mediate BC and information on becoming a mediator. So if you're not interested in that portion, feel free to leave. If you're just interested in the information around the courses, that's okay. You can just stay till that point. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you each to do, if you can, in the chat function, write why you're here today. Are you interested more in leadership courses, the conflict resolution courses, or our training and facilitation courses, or perhaps in becoming a mediator? That way we can tailor our session a bit more. So I'm gonna, because I can't see the chat, I'll just ask Travis to let me know, share where our participants are here from today, what they're interested in.
So there's quite a bit of interest in conflict resolution and mediation, one
Mm-hmm.
particular in family mediation, a
Mm,
couple in leadership.
okay. Okay, sounds good. Well, we will focus in those three areas then. We can touch on the training and facilitation as well, but maybe we won't go as deep into those if there's nobody here interested in that program. Okay, thank you, everyone. So I want to start first by talking a little bit about what we offer. So we have courses that you can take. There's no entry requirement, so you just need to be an adult or outside of high school, and you can register for the courses. We offer standalone courses, which means you don't have to enroll in a program. You can just choose one or two courses that you're interested in and take them. Or you can also take a full program, and we have a number of associate programs as well as full certificate programs to meet different learners' needs. So we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Most of our courses are face-to-face, and that's because of the content of our courses and the way we run them. So a lot of it is around developing skills engaging with other people. And our courses are experiential, so you have the chance to try out the things you're learning as you go. And that is, we found easier to do face-to-face than online. Having said that, we do have some online courses. A lot of the family mediation courses, content around the separation and divorce issues are online, and a couple blended courses as well. We do also have a few different campuses. So our main campus is in New Westminster. We also have other campus in Victoria. We offer courses in the Yukon, Prince George, and University of Calgary. So depending on where you're from, there might be a few different options for you in terms of where you get your training. The courses themselves are different than some post-secondary institutions. So they're Monday through Friday, and they last from 1 to 5 days. So for example, the Foundation of Collaborative Conflict Resolution, which is one of our fundamental courses, is 3 days long, and it runs 8:30 to 4:30 at various times throughout the year. So it's continuous intake. So it's not semester-based or term-based. So that works really well for a lot of our learners that are wanting to take a course here or there as they can, because a lot of people are working when they're taking the courses. We have 8 different credentials, and we'll jump into those in a bit. And we also have customized training for workplaces. So while students come to us for our tuition-based courses, we can also come to you. So if you have a workplace that you think would benefit from one of the courses, we can customize it for your workplace with the scenarios and the training in terms of what would fit your needs, and come and deliver it in your area. So that's an option as well. Okay.
So in terms of what to expect from our courses, as Christina mentioned, a lot of them are designed to be flexible, often for individuals who are working full-time and may not be able to commit to full-time studies. So you can sign up for individual courses or larger programs. You do not necessarily need to be enrolled in a program to attend the courses, although there are advantages to being part of one of our certificate programs. They're part-time and on a rolling basis, so you can take as much or as little time as you need to work your way through them, provided that you're meeting all of the prerequisites that are involved. But they are designed to meet the needs of a diverse range of schedules. by being continuous intake as well. They tend to be good value when compared with other organizations, particularly as it relates to the hours of classroom time to the expense that comes with it. And given the experiential learning, there's skills that are kind of ready to take away with you when you leave. The note about pass-fail. So building on the experiential learning, what you can expect when you join one of our classes is to dive right into actual practice. There'll be activities to participate in, discussions to bring your own life experiences in, and you're not assigned a grade so long as you participate, so long as you are bringing your whole self to the activities and really engaging with them. It's on a pass-fail basis. That being said, our larger certificate programs do often have assessments at the end to help learners reflect on how they're going to integrate them into their wider practice. And I think we have somebody with their mic on. There's some background noise coming through. So just a reminder, if you don't mind muting your mics, that would be wonderful. Thank you. And Christina, if you don't mind the next slide. I just wanted to, there was a question that came in just a minute ago that said, interested in conflict resolution applicable to the construction industry. Will the CR course help me? So I'll just take a moment to address that. So the skills that we work with in terms of conflict resolution, so if that's around de-escalation, in terms of working with challenging conversations, in terms of exploring interests and really coming to agreements that are collaborative, those are applied across industries. And in some of our courses, you will be invited to bring your personal experience into the room. So if there are particular courses that you're working with in the construction industry or whatever industry or field any of the rest of you are situated in, you have the opportunity to really talk about what's unique about those conflicts in that field, and may have the opportunity to practice with a role play scenario that really reflects that context as well. Going back to our slide around our learning model. So we've touched on a couple of points here already, the experiential and applied. So our classes are not lecture style. We do provide content in terms of research-based best practices and skills to use, but really we're situated in terms of actually, what is it like to use those skills? What is it like when you're actually sitting in the seat of someone who has to have a difficult conversation? What's it like when you're the mediator who's actually having to balance and address the concerns of multiple parties? And you get the chance to try those out and then to debrief with the support of a coach or the instructor. They are informed by research. They are student-centered in the sense that when we invite people into the classroom, we are also inviting them to bring in their prior learning and their life experiences that they've worked with, and really take a whole person approach in terms of trying to be flexible in meeting the needs of the various individuals that set foot on the JI campus. It's designed for adult learners. So that very much speaks to the experiential and also to the fact that when we sit in a classroom with a diverse group, whether that be industry, backgrounds, geographic, wherever you're coming from, we really invite people to bring in their unique perspectives so that we can boil things down to a level that really matters to each individual and learn from others in the classroom. Last but not least, our instructors are all practitioners. So on the conflict resolution side, our instructors are often engaged in private practice in mediation or conflict consulting. And on the leadership side, they're individuals who have a rich background in terms of actually having stepped into the role of the leader and knowing what it's like to deal with those situations in a larger context. And that really helps us to keep our learning current. So our instructors as practitioners can help reinforce and build in and bring in some of the current trends as well as best practices that they've come across in their work.
Great, thanks, Travis. So in terms of who takes our courses and who our learners are, they are from all walks of life. So as Travis already mentioned, we deal with conflict in and interpersonal communication in many different industries in most of our work environments, as well as at home with kids, with spouses, friends, etc. So it's for everybody, and that's the amazing part of it. We have a lot of people that are emerging leaders and moving into new positions, and they feel that perhaps they came from a position of being a content expert, and now they're working in perhaps a more leadership or management role. And they just feel that they want to learn these skills for dealing with people and working with people in various situations. We also get people that are seasoned professionals and looking for fresh perspectives or insights. Maybe they've been doing things the same way for 20 years and they want to try something new, learn something new and different way of doing things. Other people come to us when they're going through a career change and they want to build self-awareness and emotional intelligence. We often see people that are retiring from one career and moving into a new career, perhaps to become a mediator or a negotiator, and they're wanting to get that training and knowledge here. We also have people that are coming specifically because they want to be a mediator or a family mediator. However, I'd say those numbers are smaller than the others that are coming through the doors, but we will touch on that in depth in the end of the program. Okay. So I'm just going to touch now on some of the courses as well as certificates. So it looks like my slide's not moving for me. Oh, there we go. It has now. So one of the foundational courses for the Center for Conflict Resolution is our Foundations of Collaborative Conflict Resolution. So while there's other courses that you could start with, we really suggest this is a good starting point. It allows you to gain an understanding of how you're approaching conflict, what you're showing up with in interpersonal communication with other people, as well as gives you a basic understanding of different conflict styles and the role of assumptions and emotions. And it's a highly participatory course, so it allows you again to try out different techniques. And one great thing about our program is we not only have the instructors in the classrooms, but we also bring coaches in. So the final day of the course I'm talking about right now has a full day where you have extra coaches in so that you can have smaller groups and be supported not just by one instructor in the room. So students have found that very beneficial. In terms of the different associate certificates, we have a couple that you could take. We have a certificate in conflict coaching, and that certificate often appeals to people that are coaching others to deal with interpersonal conflict. So perhaps leaders that are, they have a team that they're working with and they're not wanting to step in and try and resolve the people, but they're trying to coach them to be able to resolve their own issues. The workplace conflict certificate, it's kind of like the title says, a lot of people take that when they're wanting a certain number of courses that will lead them to be more effective in their work environment. We also have 3 full certificates. And when I say full, I mean they're longer. So you notice the associate certificates there are 12 days or 11 days, where the full certificates are either 36 days or 40 days. So that doesn't mean you come and take 36 days of training all at once. As I mentioned before, our courses run from 1 to 5 days, and there are various times throughout the year. So you could schedule it a few different ways. You could take one course in the fall, another course in the winter, or some people like to take the courses closer together. So they take one, in September, one in October, that type of thing. But the schedule is flexible to work for people that are already working and aren't able to commit to, say, 36 days all at once or 40 days all at once. We also have people that take it over a couple of years. So either way works. It's really what's going to make the most sense for you as learners. In terms of our full certificates, we have a certificate that specializes specifically in mediating, separating families going through separation and divorce. So that's the family mediation certificate. So people that take this certificate are often people that are looking to become family justice counselors or work as a private mediator in those fields. We also have people that are working with families in nonprofits, in counseling centers, who are again just wanting to get a better understanding of those different dynamics in separation and divorce, as well as the communication skills to go along with that. So that's a nice fit for those people. And then the other two, I would say our specialization in mediation and third-party intervention is probably more popular than the specialization in negotiation. And it's really taking a focus on that third-party intervention, and whether that be in workplace or whether that be as a private mediator, that's a popular one for getting that in-depth knowledge and experience in those areas. Okay. I'm going to jump over now to Travis, who's going to fill you in a bit about the courses and credentials for the Center of Leadership.
So we have three main programs for those of you who do have an interest in leadership. The first is our Associate Certificate in Training and Facilitation. Christina mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I didn't see anybody in the chat room who had indicated a particular interest in this, but just for the sake of those who may be watching this webinar later, watching the recording, I will spend a little bit of time going over for those who may be interested. So the Training and Facilitation Certificate is really designed for those who have subject matter expertise, and they're now being asked to transfer that to other individuals or other groups. They may be leading a team and wanting to really reinforce and build skills of those they're leading, or they may be informally part of a community group or an organization, and they're really wanting to bring their insight and their skills to a wider audience in terms of passing those on. The facilitation is for those who may find themselves needing to host and lead meetings, which many of you who are kind of stepping into different careers may bump into from time to time. There are core courses, and then individuals have the option of either specializing in training or in facilitation. Second is the Associate Certificate in Leadership and Conflict Resolution. So this pulls both from the Center for Leadership and the Center for Conflict Resolution and gives a really solid introduction to both in terms of how you might blend those as a leader or someone who is trying to influence others. And the Associate Certificate also ladders quite well into both the programs that Christina mentioned a few moments ago on the conflict resolution side, as well as into our larger program on the leadership side, the Certificate in Applied Leadership. So this program is 20 training days. And to give you an idea of what the flavor of that is, so when you first step into the first course, which is called Lead Yourself First, you're really asked to reflect on what is unique about myself as a practitioner. If I am stepping into a leadership role or trying to influence others, what are my strengths? What are my challenges? What perspectives am I bringing to the table? And what kind of learning might I want to develop and incorporate into my practice? From there, you build out into relationships. When I am engaging in conversations or collaboration with others, what does that look like? How do I build relationships? How do I build my interpersonal communication and my interpersonal network to help influence others? And finally, individuals are asked to bring that onto what does that look like from an organizational perspective or from a community perspective. So we always start from the reflective, what's going on for me as an individual, and then build outwards from there.
Sorry, it took me a minute to realize I was on mute there. So we are going to dig deeper into practicing as a mediator. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a guest here from Mediate BC that's going to talk specifically about what they offer, as well as becoming a mediator. So I just wanted to pause and see if anyone had any questions at this time. And maybe Travis, I'll let you monitor the chat since I can't see it, or for those of you that are comfortable, you can just unmute yourself and ask us.
So there were a couple of questions that have come up here. So Christine asked,
Great.
how far in advance is the instructor assigned to a particular course? And Christina, you might be in the best position to answer that one.
Sure, I can speak to it from the Center for Conflict Resolution side of things. So usually assigning happens fairly far out. I think usually a year out. Sometimes changes happen closer to if you know somebody's sick or something comes up and we have to make changes, but scheduling is done quite in advance. So I don't know if that answers your question or if there was more to that one, but feel free to chime in if you wanted more details around that.
The next question, and I'm just bouncing back and forth between a couple of them here. So there was also a question of, do you offer special hotel rates for out-of-towners coming to take an in-person course? Unfortunately, no. Participants would be responsible for their own travel expenses coming in.
We do have 2 hotels that if people aren't familiar with the area, that are close by, and at least one of them offers shuttle service. So you can always contact us and we can give you those names. I can say them now. One is the Key in New Westminster, and the other one is Executive in Burnaby. So if you need any help in terms of where to go, if you're not familiar with the area, you can call in to one of our program assistants, and they'd be happy to point you at least in the right direction.
Next, we had a question, are you able to send the course dates and locations? So yes, those are available online, but we can also send them out. We have a view book that lists all of our courses and programs, including the details for those. And we also have a document that lists upcoming courses for our New Westminster, Victoria, Prince George, and Calgary locations. Rob from all the way from Nova Scotia has asked which of the courses are available online. So thank you for joining us tonight. I can speak briefly on the leadership side. So on the leadership side, unfortunately, none of our courses are wholly online. There may be some resources attached to them available online, but they are currently delivered face-to-face, mostly for that experiential element that I mentioned in terms of having that real small group discussion, the chance to role play some of the conversations and interpersonal communication skills that we're talking about. That being said, our programs do periodically go under review to see what, if any, changes we might like to make to better meet the needs of students. So that will not necessarily always be the case. It may be worth checking back. I would also reiterate that we offer customized training as well. So if you are part of any community groups or organizations in Nova Scotia that you think might open up sort of a bigger group that wants to take similar courses, we can customize those and come out to you to deliver it.
Thanks, Travis.
And Christina, did you want to speak about the conflict resolution side online?
Sure, sounds good. So some of the courses that are available online are our Theoretical Foundations of Dispute Resolution course, as well as for the family mediation side, I would say all of them, all of the family content courses involved in that certificate online. So for example, anything that starts with a FAMJ in front of the course code would be online, whereas the ones that start with CRES are mostly in person. So some examples are the family violence course, child support guidelines course, those are all online, as well as a couple more conflict resolution courses, which would be the ethics course, the civil procedures course. I probably won't list them all, but they are, it does say online in our view book, or sorry, program guide under each course, whether it's online or in person, as well as you're more than welcome to contact one of us in the center as we do work with students in terms of helping them with their career path, learning path and what courses are face-to-face and online and which courses to take first. So we can provide more details as well.
Our next question, oh, sorry, chat's moving around here on me, was from Iva, who asked, generally at what stage of their careers are those taking the leadership courses? So excellent question. As Christina alluded to earlier, we don't necessarily view leadership as a particular, it's not always as a particular position. So people may be coming into it at the early stages of their career, all the way to senior leaders. But the way that we apply leadership is less about what formal position do I hold and more about how do I become that influencing those around me and really leading the people that I work with and that I live with in directions that I think are constructive. So that influence perspective can be applied to individuals at any stage of their leadership development. We have a question here that says, chat box is moving around on me again. Bear with me for one moment here. I am an RN on disability and I want to become a nurse practitioner once I am well enough. In the meantime, I am interested in learning conflict resolution in depth and working with my future patients and their families. Is doing a full mediation certificate overkill? Would it be better to do the workplace certificate? I know this is person by person, but wondering about your thoughts.
Yeah, great question. So my suggestion would be to start by taking a couple of courses and seeing if they're the right fit for you and seeing how far you want to go. So there's nothing saying that you have to register in the program by the third course, second course, fourth course. So I usually recommend take one or two courses before making a decision if you even want to register in a program and which program you want to register in. The second part that's really great is that the associate certificates, so say the associate certificate in the workplace conflict, ladders into the larger certificates. So you could start with the goal and get the smaller certificate, and then if you so choose, you can continue on, and those courses would ladder into the full certificate. So that's a nice way to do it as well. So that would be my suggestion.
Our next question says, how often do students pursuing the mediation certificate find opportunities through the JI to gain real-world mediation experience?
Great, I can tackle that one. So we don't have any practicums here at the JI. We do concentrate on the learning and the education side of things. Heverton from JIBC, the guest that's joining us tonight, can probably talk a little bit more about gaining real-life experience, so opportunities perhaps for practicum or teaming up with other mediators or volunteer opportunities. But here at the JI, we offer that education component, but we don't have a practicum attached to the program. Any other questions?
Our next question from Christine asks, I think Kelsey responded to this one already, but maybe just give a little more context. It says, customized training for groups. Do you mean you will physically bring a course to our group, or do you mean you can also customize an existing course for a particular workplace? So both. If you are interested in training for your workplace, what we would do is we would usually draw on our existing courses that are offered on campus, but we would then customize that so that it's actually specific to your context. So for example, someone mentioned earlier the construction industry. So we might tailor our role plays and the experiential activities to what does it look like to deal with conflict resolution specifically within the construction industry. And then we physically bring it out to your workplace. And we've offered it throughout BC, across Canada, and even internationally from our customized training side. There are advantages to this. So When you come to campus, you will be in a diverse group of learners, which is a really big strength in terms of people bringing a variety of experiences. The advantage to the customized training side is you'll often be working with your own work group, so people can compare challenges that everyone is dealing with. They can talk about opportunities that they see for their organization. They can start building relationships with people in other work groups and really focus in on what does it look like to apply this leadership or this conflict resolution skill set within our particular context at our organization. I'm just scanning to see if we've missed any questions here, so bear with me for one moment. So Kelsey did provide a link to the website with more program information for those who'd like to have a closer look. Christine did have another question that Kelsey has responded to, and just to read it out for those who might not have had a chance to look at the chats, had asked, so I have the option of taking courses a la carte before deciding whether I want to pursue the full certificate, and that is correct. You can sample courses or try them out before you enroll, and then help you decide which program might be best for you.
And a lot of our students actually come to us, they're interested maybe just in one course or two courses. So not everyone that comes to us is actually interested in pursuing a certificate. So.
And the most recent question from Rob says, how long is a customized course normally? That will depend on what you're looking for. So we can either use our existing courses. So for example, Christina mentioned the Foundations of Collaborative Conflict Resolution. So we could deliver that 3-day course at your workplace. Or if you're looking for something more concise, we can talk about, well, what does it look like to do a foundations course in a 1-day or a 2-day offering? So we wouldn't necessarily be able to cover the same content if we cover it in a shorter period, but we do want to make sure that we're tweaking that course to what's actually going to work both for the scheduling of your organization as well as for the content and the outcomes that you're hoping for. So again, this is one of those questions that gives the ever infuriating, it depends. But the wonderful thing is we do have a lot of room for creativity around that to make sure that it's what you're looking for. Did I miss anyone's question? I've been scrolling through a lot of them, and I apologize if I did, but if I missed any, please let us know.
Okay. Well, now
okay.
we're gonna.
That looks like that.
Great. Okay, so we're going to jump into a focus now on people that are interested in practicing as a mediator. So before I introduce our guest from JIBC, I'm just going to show you, move my slides forward if the PowerPoint will work with me here. There we go. Okay. And talk a little bit about some different opportunities to work as a mediator. So taking the certificate in conflict resolution with the focus on mediation, third-party intervention, often people ask, okay, so I take that and then I can come out and I can be a mediator? The answer to that is not necessarily. So if you're wanting to become a private mediator, it's like any business. So there's things you would need to do to set up your business. You'd have to know how to market, know how to network. You'd also want to get some practice working with people. You may want to get on a roster, that type of thing. So the only type of mediation that is actually legislated in BC, British Columbia, is family mediation. And so there's certain requirements if you're wanting to practice working with people around separation and divorce issues. However, if you're wanting to practice any non-family related civil issues or something to do with ICBC or business issues, there's nothing that states, well, you have to have this. However, to be successful, you probably want not only the education, but also to perhaps be on a roster, which Heatherton will talk about, or have some connections in the field. So it's not a given, okay, I've done this certificate, now I'm a mediator. There's a lot more to it. Some resources that I put up there on the screen. So opportunities for mediation. So one is in private practice. Another is as a family justice counselor. That's a position provided by the or offered through the provincial government around family mediation issues. Another option is the Civil Resolution Tribunal. Again, another organization that hires mediators. And oftentimes when you're looking at job postings, they're not actually going to be called mediators. It might be facilitator of conflict conversations or other creative words. So do be aware when you're looking at job opportunities that it's not always just the word mediation that you should be looking for if that's the field you're wanting to practice in. There's some resources that I put up there. One is the FLA, which is short for the Family Law Act. So if you're in BC and you're interested in practicing mediation to do with separation and divorce, my suggestion would be to start there. So as I mentioned before, there's specific regulations about who can practice in BC. So that's a good starting point for you. Mediate BC is listed there, which we'll go into in a bit more. We'll go into in a minute. There's also the DRS Dialogue and Resolution Services that they were offering practicum opportunities. And there's a core conflict resolution clinic that they have different resources, but one of them is they get together a group of practitioners and do different I believe they're role plays they do and engaging with each other just to get that experience and that practice under their belt. So that's just a few different opportunities and resources that you may want to explore. And
Christina, just before we move forward, we have one additional question on the chat. It says, does the Justice Institute BC offer any mentorship opportunities with alumni in order for new graduates to gain practical experience?
Yeah, no, we don't have a program set up. I believe Mediate BC has some mentorship opportunities, but I'll let them talk about them. But we don't have a program set up. But I think that's a really cool idea. Okay. Any other questions, Travis, on the chat?
No, that's all for now.
Okay, great. So I am going to let Heatherton introduce himself, and he's our guest tonight from Mediate BC. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes, great.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so thanks, Christina, for having me tonight. Thanks, Travis, and thanks, Kelsey, for organizing the info session. I always end up learning more than anything else in this info session, so I really appreciate the invitation. So I'm gonna try to be brief and just talk a little bit about Mediate BC as an organization, as well as our rosters. So the difference between our rosters, as well as our application process, and just some professional opportunities. If you have some questions, so let's begin. So Mediate BC is a not-for-profit organization that leads, promotes, and facilitates effective conflict resolution in BC, all with the goal of protecting the public. So we do this through the roster program, which is our main program, public education, and also participating actively on justice service sector initiatives, such as the Access to Justice groups. We have currently over 250 mediators on our combined rosters, and they are all over the province, even in Alberta. So all of them have met Mediate BC's standards of training and experience and education for their admittance. So each practitioner maintains a annual professional development and liability insurance requirements, which is subject to Mediate BC standards of conduct and complaints process. So as Christina mentioned, mediation is an unregulated field in our profession in BC, which means that anyone can technically say that is a mediator or a civil mediator, not family technically. So however, it doesn't mean that you are going to get cases to mediate, or people who trust in your skills and ability as a mediator. So by becoming a MediaABC roster mediator, you can obtain this credential, and being exposed to the public through our public list on the website, share knowledge and best practices with other mediators on the roster, besides other benefits. So people who call themselves mediators, they can be actually uninsured or not as qualified as our mediators. So it's better if there's some credential that can kind of back you up. So there are some different types of disputes that you can mitigate, and both on the family or the civil field. So as you can see, separation and divorce, small claims, personal injury or motor vehicle, elder mediation, wills and estates, contract disputes, workplace conflicts, housing and real estate, business partnerships. So some of them are very specific civil, some of them are very specific family, but some of them, they have like some sort of overlap. For example, family businesses, for example, it's mainly civil, it's a civil component, but there is usually there's some family dynamic involved. So it's interesting if you have like both trainings, right? Okay, so speaking of the rosters, our rosters specifically, so we currently have 6 different rosters, and each of them have different requirements for you to be admitted. So the first one is the associate civil roster, and then the associate family, the civil roster, the family roster, the meta-RB roster, and the child protection roster. And just an observation regarding the child protection roster, we actually we don't manage the roster. This is managed by the child protection roster program, and we just manage the list, but not the actual admittance process. So for you to apply to the child protection roster, it's a separate process, and we are not involved. But all the other rosters, we have information on our website where you can see the application process, and for each of them, basically you are required a portion of training, education, and experience. So basically, our application process is a combination of the 3 things. So your experience, education, and training. It doesn't mean so it's interesting because it's not only one thing or another that will define if you are admitted. It's like a comprehensive assessment, right? So it's just keep that in mind before you apply. Speaking of the specific training, so JI is a great partner in offering training for most of the applicants, most of our applicants or most of our mediators, because it has a robust Center of Conflict Resolution, which is great. So the certificate in conflict resolution, specialization in mediation and third-party intervention that Christina mentioned before, is a very complete certificate, where most of the applicants who apply to both the associate civil and the civil roster, they usually get it. So this program meets our MediaABC's training requirements. So all the hours that we require in order to apply to both associate civil and to the civil roster, you are good if you have the certificate. Secondly, this certificate also meets the 7 hours of ethics in mediation training, which we require. And ethics in mediation is a little bit challenging to obtain because it's usually part of a program. It's not actually, it's kind of hard to find training separate only with ethics in mediation. I do know some options, but if you are not into the field, it's kind of hard for you to know. But if you take the certificate in conflict resolution, you are covered because they have the 7 hours embedded in the program, and also they also have additional training as an elective course if you if you are thinking. The third point that it's interesting to highlight is that if you finish the certificate in conflict resolution and you have successfully finish the role play and in your assessment, you can the equivalent of the 3 mediations experience if you are applying to the civil roster, which is out of 10, you will only need 7 because you already have the 3 equivalent mediation experience or role play assessment from JI. And lastly, JI is a recognized institution and has a lot of, well-known instructors who are also happen to be part of our roster. So this is actually good for your network. Either if you are intending to apply to the associate civil or to the full civil, because there is where you can build your practice and you can meet people and the instructors. They will can be your reference if you are also interested in applying to the full civil roster. So there was a question regarding obtaining experience that it's always interesting to speak because it's there is a lack of practicum or mentorship program in the province for mediation in order to obtain mediation experience, and we understand the challenge. So we always try to help our applicants as much as possible to get the mediation experience. So we have some suggestions on how you can obtain mediation experience, and my first one is always co-mediating with the full either civil or family mediators because they are already in the field, they have a lot of experience, they have the training, they are required, they have some the professional liability insurance, so they are covered through holistically. So it's always my first option to go. But if you are not yet in our associate civil roster, so if you can't reach one of our mediators, there are some organizations where you can volunteer and do conflict facilitation roles or restorative justice or just other peace circles facilitation. So there are some organizations out there, and I have a list that I can send if you ask me, and where you can reach out to them and just ask say that you are looking for mediation experience and you'd like to volunteer with them. There are other the other option, or the last option that I would say, is basically get hired by an organization that actually offers mediation, or where you can practice your mediation and conflict resolution skill set. And there are organizations such as educational institutions, UBC, BCAT, SFU, for example. If they hire professionals, they are for their diversity, equity, and inclusion departments. So they all have that, and they really appreciate if you have any mediation or conflict resolution training. Some also in-house, conflict resolution specialists, especially law firms. Some of them, they have a conflict resolution department where you can also practice as a mediator. You can be work for governmental agencies. So in the federal level, the Canadian Border Services, they are always looking for people with conflict resolution experience or training. In the provincial level, as Christina mentioned before, the Family Justice Center, they hire family justice counselors to their team all the time, and it's I heard it's a pretty good place to work. You can also work with coaching or be instructor or training delivery, especially if you are focusing on civil mediation. I always recommend people to look at our 2016 business survey because it shows very, very good stats on how the mediation field works in British Columbia, and what's been trend, what sort of cases were dealt, in the last couple of years, how much the mediators average that the mediators have charged for their services, or what other professions or occupations the mediator they have besides mediation. Or so there's a lot of stats and good relevant information that you can see. And that for that you can access on our website or on our newsletter. You just need to sign up, and it's for free. I think this is all. I think that my last thing is that mediation is a long-term goal and a very, very dynamic field, and there's lots of opportunities. Basically, you just need to find your niche to be a successful practitioner. So thank you, and you can reach me on heverton.oliveira@mediabc.com or at 604-684-1300 and extension 100.
Heverton, we have one question on the chat room here that you might be able to speak to. Christine said, I am interested in elder mediation at end of life. In your opinion, is the civil roster appropriate? To me, it seems that the family roster has a strong divorce family law component.
Right, yeah, that's a very good question. And it depends. So elder end of life, it sounds to me a little bit more civil, where you will understand what's involved in the like a bureaucratic process of. I'm sorry, I think I may need a little bit of more context on what you want to do, but it's yeah, you can maybe get some civil training. However, family training would be also good for you, because you're going to deal with family involved. There usually an elder is not alone. There is some, that extended family. So it's interesting also to have some family training, because there is family dynamics involved. Maybe training in elder mediation or elder care. This kind of things is always good to have as well. But it sounds to me that it overlaps a lot between civil and family mediation. I would need to know a little bit more information from you on what you were specifically thinking.
So it doesn't look like there's any more questions up at the. Oh, one more came in. It says, does the separation and divorce also cover family court or assisting with the parties involved?
Yes, we so the family. One of the services that JIBC provide is the appointment of mediators under the Notice to Mediate regulation. This is a very specific regulation under the Supreme Court of British Columbia, where if you have a court action and you want to go to mediation, but you cannot agree with the mediator, with your ex-partner, you can request JIBC to appoint a mediator for you. This is a free service that we offer, and it is part of the court system, or the litigation system, litigation process, where people can have access to private mediators through JIBC. So you don't necessarily go to court, but you help people who are already in a court process with their family, with their separation and divorce.
So on our PowerPoint there, you'll see there's a few contact email addresses. So if some of you have specific questions that might be very context specific, or you're looking for course planning resources or support and would benefit from either a phone call or an email conversation with additional questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to any of the individuals that you note up there. Are there any more general questions that we might be able to speak to while we're all here together as a group? Right, it looks like that's it for now. Christina, Heverton, is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't had a chance to chat about?
No, I just would like to thank you for having me tonight again.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's really helpful, and I think helpful for those that attend as well. The only thing I'll mention is our acronyms there, in case you don't know what they are. So CCR is Center for Conflict Resolution, and CL is Center for Leadership. So if you were just seeing those acronyms, weren't quite sure what they are, that's what they are. But other than that, just want to say thank you for spending your evening with us. And if you have any other questions, feel free to contact one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.